The tension in the room was thick enough to slice with a knife. High-rise windows framed the skyline beyond, but all Evan could see was the polished mahogany table between them, and the thin stack of paper Tara had just slid across it. Her manicured hand retreated slowly, deliberately, as if she expected him to reach out and grab it. But he didn't. "This is standard," her father's attorney said, adjusting his glasses. "Perfectly normal for someone in Tara's position." Evan didn't respond. His eyes were on Tara. She crossed her arms. "You have no right to my money. It's all mine. My inheritance, my accounts, my assets. This prenup just makes that clear." He blinked once. The words stung more than he expected. Not because of the money. He'd never cared about that. It was what the statement said about them. About trust. About partnership. About love. Evan looked down at the document. Neatly typed clauses. Legalese. Cold and clinical. He stood up slowly, buttoning his jacket. "Got it." Tara frowned. "Wait. Evan, you're not signing." He gave her a soft smile. Calm. Unshaken. "No, Tara. I'm not signing something that tells me where I stand in your life. I already got that answer today." Her mouth opened, but no words came. The lawyer shifted uncomfortably in his seat. No one moved. Evan reached for his keys on the table, gave her one last look, more sad than angry, and said quietly, "Good luck with the wedding planning." And just like that, he walked out. No raised voice. No dramatic outburst. Just silence and stunned faces as the elevator doors closed behind him. The echo of his departure would last longer than any signature on that paper ever could. 6 months earlier, their worlds collided at a charity tech gala in downtown San Francisco. Evan was there as a speaker, presenting his open-source project that helped underfunded schools integrate affordable software. Tara was on the event committee, wearing a sapphire blue gown that matched the invitation design, flawless, curated, and very aware of it. They met by the dessert table. She asked him about his work. He asked her about her values. That first night, it felt like they'd found something rare, like someone who finally got it. Evan was grounded, shaped by years of watching his mother, Judith, stretch a teacher's salary to raise him after his father passed. He believed in building, giving, sharing. Tara, on the other hand, had grown up surrounded by wealth. Her father, Charles Whitmore, owned a luxury branding firm and taught her early on, "Trust is nice, but contracts protect you." At first, their differences intrigued each other. Tara loved Evan's quiet confidence. Evan admired her ambition, her spark. But the cracks began early. When Evan brought her to meet Judith in her small suburban home, Tara complimented the vintage furniture, then asked if they'd be upgrading once they were married. Evan laughed it off, but Judith's smile faltered. On weekends, Tara would book spa suites and bottle service tables, swiping her black card without hesitation. When Evan offered to split costs, she'd wrinkle her nose and say, "You don't need to. Just don't slow me down." His best friend Maya, who had known Evan since high school, warned him gently. "She's got this possessive way of loving. Like you're hers to manage, not to grow with." But Evan brushed it off. "She just needs time. I'm showing her something different." He meant every word. And for a while, he believed it. Still, the signs kept stacking. A raised eyebrow when he gifted a handmade anniversary card instead of a designer watch. A tight smile when he chose a local diner over the rooftop sushi bar. He thought love could bridge their differences. He didn't realize that to her, love came with clauses, just like the ones that would eventually sit on that mahogany table. Back in the present, the silence in the boardroom was heavy, broken only by the faint humming of the air conditioner. Evan glanced down at the document again. Neatly organized clauses, every line precise and purposeful. Clause 4.1. All premarital and future income of the undersigned, Tara Whitmore, shall remain the sole and exclusive property of said party. Clause 6.3. No shared ownership of real estate unless fully purchased by Tara Whitmore. Clause 8.2. In the event of divorce, no alimony or financial obligation owed by Tara Whitmore to Evan Cole. It was a fortress in legal language. Every sentence screamed, "Stay out. Don't touch. Don't dream." Evan lifted his eyes slowly. Across from him sat Tara, composed, businesslike, and beside her, her father Charles, leaning back smugly. The Whitmore family attorney, Mr. Granger, cleared his throat. "This is a standard document for a high-net-worth individual, Mr. Cole. It's for protection. Surely you understand." Evan gave a quiet nod. I understand protection. I don't understand exclusion. Tara's jaw tightened. Evan, this doesn't change how I feel about you. It's just what needs to be done. He leaned forward. Tara, there's nothing here about joint contributions. About building something together. It's all walls. Nothing shared. Charles interjected smoothly. Love doesn't pay the bills, son. Let's be realistic. Evan turned to Tara. Do you think I'm here for your money? She hesitated. I think love is love and money is money. They shouldn't mix. That's how things stay clean. That sentence settled in the air like smoke after a fire. Inside, Evan felt the weight of years, his mother counting pennies to buy school books, his quiet pride in never owing anyone. And now, to be told that love was separate from the life he wanted to build with someone. He folded the papers neatly and pushed them back across the table. I don't need anything from you, Tara. I never did. She blinked, suddenly unsure. So what are you saying? He stood up calmly, gathering his keys. I'm saying I can't marry someone who sees me as a threat to her bank account. His voice was level, almost gentle, but resolute. Tara started to rise, but he was already turning toward the elevator. And that smile, not bitter, not angry, but done, was the only signature he left behind. As the elevator doors slid closed, he didn't feel empty. He felt free. The rain started halfway across the Bay Bridge, thin silver lines streaking Evan's windshield like tears he refused to shed. Wipers swept back and forth in a steady rhythm, as relentless and measured as his heartbeat, while the city lights blurred into impressionistic smears. Every honk, every hiss of tires on wet asphalt, sounded distant, as if the world had slipped behind glass. Heartbreak throbbed in his chest, but it was braided with something lighter, relief. For the first time in weeks, he could breathe without second-guessing every gesture, every purchase, every offhand remark that might be misread as greedy. He flicked his phone screen once. 15 missed calls from Tara, 6 from unknown numbers he knew were lawyers, and turned the device face down, then off. Silence flooded the car like cool night air. Maya's spare bedroom awaited him in Oakland. A lumpy futon, posters from college, the comforting clutter of a life lived without pretense. She greeted him in sweats, handed him a steaming mug of chamomile, and said nothing more than, "Stay as long as you need." That absence of judgment felt like a blanket. Across the bay, the Whitmore penthouse sat high above the storm. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased a glittering skyline Tara scarcely noticed. Her heels clicked across marble as she paced, phone to ear, voicemail again. Each futile ring echoed off glass and stone, magnifying the hollowness. She pressed her forehead to the cool pane and watched red taillights thread through slick streets far below, looking for one she could never pick out. Outside, wind rattled the building, but inside there was only the thin hum of the refrigerator and the relentless tick of a Cartier wall clock. Time, once an accessory, now mocked her. Evan lay on Maya's futon listening to the rhythmic drip from a leak in the gutter outside. It matched the patter of rain, a metronome for rebuilding. He closed his eyes and let the storm wash carry away the last echoes of polished wood tables and sterile legal clauses. Some silences are empty. This one was restorative, an acoustic reminder that dignity makes its own music, even in the downpour. Judith Cole called just after dawn, her voice soft but certain. "I heard the rain in your city last night," she said. "Your father always said storms rinse away what doesn't belong." Evan pictured his dad adjusting a crooked tie before parent-teacher night, insisting dignity wasn't posture, it was principle. Judith didn't mention lawyers or headlines. She reminded Evan that people who value themselves never barter that worth for comfort. He felt a knot behind his ribs loosen. Later, Maya appeared in the doorway with 2 mugs of black coffee and a grin that meant business. "Ground rule," she announced, plopping onto the futon's edge. "No second-guessing your boundaries. They're there for a reason, same as passwords." She scrolled through her phone, showing him the buzz, speculative blogs, #prenup drama trending, a few strangers calling him a gold digger. Evan raised an eyebrow. Maya shrugged. "Internet's loud. Your life is quiet. Quiet wins." Across the bay, Tara sat amid silk sample books and RSVP cards while her bridesmaids filled the penthouse with nervous chatter. "It's a blip," Paige insisted, though her forced laugh betrayed doubt. "He'll cool off," another friend murmured. "But the venue? Non-refundable after tomorrow." The word canceled drifted like smoke, curling into Tara's thoughts. Charles Whitmore swept in, every inch the branding magnate. He ignored the champagne flutes on the coffee table and placed a single document beside Tara's untouched latte, a revised wedding budget. Until this fiasco is resolved, he said crisply, I'm freezing additional funds. Image control is expensive, and I won't bankroll uncertainty. His tone made clear the money was leverage, not love. When the room emptied, Tara scrolled through her texts. Dozens of unread messages, most asking what went wrong. None asked how she felt. She stared out at the sun breaking through dissident clouds, realizing the storm outside had migrated inward. Back in Oakland, Evan sipped cooling coffee while Judith's words replayed, storms rinse away what doesn't belong. He wasn't sure what would be left of the wedding, or the relationship, but he knew the price of pride was mounting on both sides, and someone would have to decide whether love or ego would pay the bill. Day one after the prenup implosion, Tara told herself she could muscle through. The wedding planner, Celeste, arrived at 9 a.m. sharp, brandishing mood boards and fabric swatches that smelled faintly of lavender. Tara pasted on a smile, signed 3 invoices, and pretended the empty place at the dining table, Evan's usual seat, wasn't a gaping hole in the morning. But the cracks widened fast at BY Wednesday, the florist called. Final payment is due, Ms. Whitmore. $25,000, non-refundable. No problem, Tara replied automatically, opening her banking app. Her balance, impressive on paper, mocked her with its lack of liquidity. Her trust fund released quarterly disbursements, and she'd front-loaded spending for the year. A Milan-buying trip, a down payment on a Rivian, that impulsive girl's weekend in Tulum. The next tranche wouldn't hit for 6 weeks. She tapped her father's number, then stopped. Their last conversation still rang in her ears. Image control is expensive, and I won't bankroll uncertainty. Asking now would signal weakness, and Charles Whitmore prized strength above all. Her accountant, Mr. Santos, met her in his downtown office lined with dusty ledgers. He clicked through spreadsheets while she fidgeted with a Montblanc pen. Your net worth is substantial, he said, but your liquid assets are thin. How thin? Wedding thin. His expression softened. Until your next distribution, you're asset-rich and cash-poor. Any new expense means liquidating investments or taking a short-term loan, both unwise given market conditions. The room felt smaller, the air recycled. Tara thought of Evan's steady voice during their budget chats, how he'd suggested a smaller ceremony, redirecting savings to a joint emergency fund. She had laughed then, called it cute. Unable to sleep, Tara curled on the designer's sofa, phone illuminating the darkness. She scrolled through photos. Evan teaching her to make grilled cheese in Judith's tiny kitchen, laughing when she burned the first slice. Evan slipping a handwritten note into her purse after a long flight. Your presence is my favorite present. Evan fixing the wobbly leg on her favorite marble side table instead of replacing it. Each image was a pinprick. Together they were a sledgehammer. Notifications pinged, vendors, bridesmaids, gossip sites speculating canceled or postponed. She turned the phone face down, but the afterglow clung to her eyelids. Tara pressed her palms to her temples, breath hitching. For the first time, she pictured a wedding without chandeliers or imported orchids, but with Evan's crooked grin and Judith's teary blessing. The vision was achingly simple and suddenly priceless. At 4 a.m., she padded barefoot to the balcony. The city below was a wet mosaic of streetlights and reflections, beautiful yet unreachable, like the life she'd constructed on credit and contracts. Wind whipped her silk robe against her knees, cold and clarifying. She whispered into the dawn, as if confessing to the skyline. I cared more about looking rich than being rich in the ways that mattered. Humility settled on her shoulders, unfamiliar but strangely light. She didn't know exactly how to fix the chasm she'd carved, but she knew the first step. Drop the facade, pick up the phone, and this time, not to secure funds, but to seek forgiveness. With trembling fingers, Tara drafted a message to Evan she would send at sunrise. Can we talk? Not about money, about us. Maya buzzed the apartment at dusk, expecting a food delivery driver. Instead, the intercom crackled with a shaky voice. It's Tara. Please, I need to see Evan. Maya glanced at Evan on the couch, a paperback half-read in his lap. He gave a small nod. She pressed the door release. Tara stepped from the elevator moments later, eyes rimmed crimson, mascara tracing faint rivers on her cheeks. She clutched a crumpled handkerchief like a white flag. Evan rose, but didn't move toward her. "Let's talk outside," he said softly. Maya disappeared into the kitchen, granting privacy. They stood beneath the flickering hallway light. Tara's shoulders trembled. I thought protecting myself meant protecting us," she whispered, words catching like broken glass. Evan waited, hands in jacket pockets. Silence pressed until she filled it. "I've spent this week cataloging invoices, balance sheets." She shook her head as if the papers still clung to her fingers. "None of it felt safe without you. Money used to be my anchor. Now it's an anchor around my neck." He studied her face, the ruin of pretenses, the raw sincerity. "What do you need from me, Tara?" "Not a signature." She took a ragged breath. "Your forgiveness. Your honesty. Maybe a chance to learn what partnership actually means." Her voice cracked. "I was terrified you'd wake up someday and realize I'm imperfect, and money was the only armor I knew." Evan's gaze softened, but he kept distance. "Fear isn't an excuse to build walls and call them foundations." "I know." She swallowed hard. "When you walked out, I lost more than a fiancé. I lost my compass. I can't find north without you." A beat passed, long enough for the elevator to ding downstairs, long enough for Tara's tears to dry in salty streaks. Evan finally spoke. "I still love you." Her shoulders sagged with relief, then straightened at his next words. "But love without respect is a house on sand. We rebuild only if we pour new concrete together, and this time the blueprints are shared." Tara nodded, tears shining anew, but her voice was clear. "Tell me where to start." "First," he said, unlocking the lobby door so cool night air washed over them, "we start with a walk. No lawyers, no planners. Just two people deciding if they still fit side by side." They stepped into the streetlight's amber glow, neither leading, neither following, testing, for the first time, true equilibrium. Sunday morning, the city still half asleep, Evan and Tara met on a wooden bench beneath a sprawling jacaranda in Golden Gate Park. Soft blossoms drifted down, purple confetti that felt more celebratory than any ballroom chandelier. Neither wore business attire. She arrived in sneakers, he in a thrift store hoodie, a quiet signal that the day wasn't about appearances. Evan produced a spiral notebook, the cardboard cover creased at the corners. "Before numbers," he said, "let's name the things we actually value." He clicked a pen and handed it to Tara first. She wrote in deliberate strokes. 1. Radical transparency. No hidden accounts. No hidden fears. 2. Shared generosity. At least 10% of annual income to causes we both choose. 3. Growth fund. Each contributes 15% of earnings to a joint future account. 4. Conflict resets. 48-hour cooling-off rule before major financial decisions. 5. Every quarter, a gratitude audit. Review goals, celebrate wins, adjust together. Tara exhaled, surprised at how grounding the words felt. Evan added 2 more. 6. Emergency cushion. 6 months of shared expenses, untouchable except by mutual consent. 7. Respect clause. Neither partner uses money as leverage in disagreements. They exchanged the notebook like vows, initialing beside each line. No lawyer present, yet the signatures felt weightier than any embossed seal. Only then did Evan unfold a 3-page draft prenup he'd prepared himself, written in plain language. Assets prior to marriage remained separate. Any wealth built afterward, businesses, investments, even intellectual property, would be split proportionally to each partner's contributions of time and capital. In divorce, alimony would be need-based, never punitive. Mediation mandatory before litigation. Tara read every sentence, the corners of her mouth lifting. "This protects us both," she said, "but it also believes in us." She reached for the pen again, signing without hesitation. Evan didn't smile in triumph. He smiled in recognition. They weren't codifying distrust. They were framing cooperation. Before leaving, they tucked the values list between the prenup pages and sealed both in a simple manila envelope. No glossy folder, no attorney letterhead, just 2 names written in ink beginning to dry, flanked by jacaranda petals. Walking back toward the city, they held hands, marveling at how something as fraught as money could feel, in the right light, like a shared promise instead of a dividing line. Evan sat alone on the rooftop of Maya's apartment building, watching fog roll over the San Francisco skyline like breath over a mirror. In the dim hush of early evening, the city felt quieter, like it, too, was waiting to decide something important. The notebook lay open on his lap, the list of values he and Tara had crafted beneath the jacaranda. He traced each word with his eyes, but his heart remained undecided. Was her change of heart born from clarity or crisis? He thought of Tara's trembling voice in the lobby, her soaked mascara, the confession about losing her compass. The vulnerability had been real, but panic often looks like passion in disguise, and desperation could mimic sincerity. He turned his gaze upward. A single plane blinked against the dusk, gliding smoothly across the sky. It had a destination. He didn't. Did he still love Tara? Absolutely. But the real question was, did he respect what they'd become, or only what they could become if everything changed? Some truths don't come with clarity, only quiet. Evan pulled out his phone, thumb hovering over her name. He wasn't ready to restart, not entirely. But he also wasn't ready to walk away. Finally, he typed, "Let's rebuild slowly. No wedding date until trust feels effortless. One step at a time." He hit send and placed the phone beside him, watching as the fog swallowed the last of the skyline. In the gray stillness, there was no final answer, only space for something new to begin. 6 months later, laughter echoed through Evan's modest backyard as close friends and family gathered for a second engagement party, smaller, simpler, infinitely more genuine. String lights twinkled above folding chairs, and Judith's lemon bars vanished faster than the catered hors d'oeuvres. No tuxedos, no designer gowns, just handwritten vows read aloud beneath a blooming oak tree. "I promise," Tara said, eyes locked on Evan's, "to never value walls more than windows, and to build a life where both of us fit freely." Later that evening, in their shared home office, she gently slid 2 items into a single wooden frame, their co-written values list and the final signed prenup. She hung it beside the desk, not for guests to see, but for them to remember. It wasn't a contract that saved them. It was the decision to speak, listen, and build together. Love and security weren't enemies. In their hands, they had become equals,